let's take a look at what the SLO facilitators workbooks look like right now to figure out how to operationalize all of this and just get it done. Every department's SLO workbook will have these same sheets along the bottom. Activity summary serves to show the department how many of their courses are in Cycle A and how many of the courses are in Cycle B. The second level of overview that we get on this tab is we can see how many of those courses are up for assessment, for analyzing and acting on the results of assessment. And the pie chart here helps the faculty see what does the workload look like in terms of assessing or analyzing and acting. In the library's case, all 9 of the courses on the books are in a year designated as Assess. So the library knows that this year, 2018-19, every single course and every single one of those SLOs needs to be assessed. So now we can start to use the sheets in the workbook. One of the sheets is called Assess Overview. And within this sheet, we can see that all of the courses listed are only the ones marked for assessment. If we follow our columns from left to right, we can see the course identifier. We can see which cycle they live within. We can see the current year that they're in along their 6-year routine review cycle. We can see what that activity is. In this case, it's the assessment year. Then we start to see different numbers. We see how many SLOs are related to that class. In this case, Library 1 has 2 SLOs, whereas Library 2 has 3 SLOs. Every SLO needs a corresponding assessment method. So ideally, we should see a 1-to-1 correlation in these columns. The column entitled SLOs with Results will start at 0 at the beginning of that course's assessment cycle. As the course gets assessed over fall and spring of its assessment years, the number will increase. And it should increase on a 1-to-1 correlation, and so on. When we assess in Canvas, the results of assessment will continue to add into themselves. So that year 1 fall, the first semester of assessment, students are enrolled into the shell and we get a percentage of their mastery. Then in spring, students are enrolled into the shell and their mastery of the outcome is added onto how the students did in fall. So that by the end of year 2, if we're assessing for 2 years, we have a single percentage that represents how students did on the SLOs for the previous 2 years combined. It's that single result of assessment percentage that we will use to take meaningful actions on in the Analyze Act year. The column that shows the number of SLOs in Canvas is constantly being updated as faculty send their quizzes or rubrics to the SLO coordinators. Those quizzes and rubrics get input into the SLO assessment shells. And the numbers update in the SLO workbook, telling them how many of the course's SLOs are ready to be assessed in Canvas. The final columns on the Assess Overview let the facilitators see if the campus-wide coordinators have made any notes at the course level. And it also lets the facilitators input statements that provide evidence that the course's SLOs have been discussed in department meetings or email conversations to help gather the evidence that shows faculty are engaged in SLO assessment. So now we can look at one of the other sheets Clicking on Assess Input takes us into our next sheet, and you'll notice that this sheet shows everything broken out by outcome. Whereas the Assess Overview showed course level data, Assess Input shows SLO level data. So each row in this sheet will be a student learning outcome. And this is important because the Assess Input is the sheet that the SLO facilitators will use to record the results of assessment. So it's making the facilitator's job easier when we assess on Canvas, so that instead of reaching out to faculty and saying, please send me your result of assessment, and instead of taking the time to tabulate those results, aggregate them, and then finally report them, the SLO facilitator's job is more and more becoming, let's record how the results were from Canvas. So your SLO facilitators at the end of each semester for the Assess courses will be looking into the Canvas shell at that high level sections aggregate giant percentage for how all of the students have done over the last year or two of this course. They'll take that single percentage and they'll put it into this spreadsheet under the Assess Input tab. And that is reporting a result of assessment.